I want to talk about the Labour leadership contest.
Talking of party atmosphere.
I was showing it to my younger colleagues here, and they just couldn't believe that back in 2015, the Sunday Telegraph ran this story, and the headline was, why Tories should join Labour and back Jeremy Corbyn for just a £3 membership fee. You can help consign the party to electoral oblivion in 2020 and silence its loony left forever. And they were basically advising their readers, dyed-in-the-wool Tories, to shell out £3, buy a vote in the Labour leadership contest, vote for Jeremy Corbyn, and that would mean that Labour would never get into power. That was in 2015. Do we want to look at the last two election results for Labour?
It's unbelievable, isn't it?
So, one might argue, despite the fact that Labour subsequently raised the cost of a vote, for want of a better words, to £25, which is what it currently is for this leadership contest, they're still at it, the Tories. In fact, one of them was telling James Whale on Friday here on Talk Radio that he'd already paid his £25 to vote for, in this case, it'll be Rebecca Long-Bailey, perceived as Jeremy Corbyn's natural left-wing successor. Now, the problem with that, of course, is to people who feel that Labour pursuing a sort of old-fashioned socialist agenda rendered them absolutely unelectable in the last election, the worst result since 1935. So why would the membership choose somebody who didn't just advocate Jeremy Corbyn's policies? She boasted that she drafted them as well. I should point out that some of you will be aware that Keir Starmer was leading the race up until last night. That was based, I think, primarily on what bookmakers were saying, wasn't it, I think? Keir Starmer actually, according to a Survation survey, I think Rebecca Long-Bailey came in at 42%, Keir Starmer trailing on 37%. The gap narrows a little when you factor in second choice votes. Here to discuss, I thought he did a cracking job last time we spoke to him, is Nathan Yeowell, from Director of Progress Online. That's a progressive movement within the Labour Party. And times like this, Nathan, you must wonder if the word progressive carries any meaning at all. Well, afternoon to you.
Back again. Well, I think there's definitely a big job of work we need to do to define what it means to be progressive in the Labour Party today and in the country. But do you want me to pick up on
by all means. I mean, can I just ask you, are you worried at all about infiltrators skewing Labour leadership contests?
Not necessarily from the right wing or from the Telegraph, because I remember those headlines, was it 4.5 years ago? I think we were all a bit worried. I mean, but having gone through the slog of the past 4.5 years and gone to my local meetings and tried to stand up for that bit of the Labour Party I believe in, the reality is most of the people who came in were actually people activated by Jeremy somehow into politics in 2015, or just very many older people who were much more of a left-wing persuasion. So if we did get a massive influx of entryists or new members, they were predominantly from the left. And I think anybody who came in from the right wing to cause mischief had a marginal effect on it, to be honest.
Okay. Are you happy with the way these leadership contests have been conducted since 2015?
Well, I'll hold my hands up now and say that in the abstract, before 2015, I thought the idea of allowing ordinary members of the public and voters and Labour supporters to have a say might be good and might.
If it's any consolation, and I'm not a member of no political party, I also thought it might be an interesting idea. You were not alone.
We can hang our heads in shame together then, that we should probably not be commentating on these matters on the radio. But look, it didn't work out the way I thought it would. I think the fact that it's still as in the rule book, we've got to work within those rules and try and maximise what's going on. So obviously, Progress, the organisation I run, along with another organisation called Labour First, we've actually been running our own campaign in the past 10 days called Reclaiming Labour, where we are going out with former MPs and ministers like Jackie Smith and Gloria De Piero, who's just stood down, and asking former members to rejoin, and also actually going out there and trying to talk to lifelong Labour voters who couldn't vote Labour before Christmas.
So, and what kind of response are you getting? Because I know Gloria, and I think she was a fantastic MP, and it's a great shame she stood down. What do people say on the doorstep to that? Because you said right at the beginning, it's kind of sort of the bit of Labour that I sort of stand for, and I think that's part of the problem is the Labour is quite fragmented at the moment.
Well, I think anecdotally, and this is all anecdote, because obviously the powers that be at the Labour Party don't like telling anyone anything. But there's been, as we know, there's been an upswing in membership.
Yeah.
I know myself locally, and like I told you last week, I'm in South London. There are members who've left in the past couple of years who've rejoined and are rejoining in some numbers, and they're rejoining now to try and get rid of what they think has been a problematic set of politicians and leaders. So I'm actually quite...
Can we speak in simpler terms, the left, the more extreme left?
Okay, the hard left who've come in and taken over and have actually caused merry hell for very many of us, and wrote that manifesto and campaigned so appallingly that led us to last year's catastrophic defeat.
Okay, that seems a little bit more direct.
I'm used to talking in code. Is
well, I understand that, but I'm trying to get a handle on where. Because the party membership has grown in number. The trouble with focusing on party membership, of course, is the party membership don't decide general elections. It's the general public that decides that. Is there still a faction, and it seems like such a counterintuitive question to ask someone, a Labour activist, but is there still a faction within Labour that doesn't actually care if Labour fails to win power again at the next election, as long as they stick to their key, true, heartfelt left-wing policies?
Yes, and there is still quite a sizable number of those members, I'd suggest. And going back to what you said in your intro then about the Labour list and Survation findings that seem to suggest that despite coming across as the most underwhelming candidate in the field so far, the Rebecca Long-Bailey seems to be ahead. In large part, that will be because of the power and the numbers of the hard left in the past couple of years has grown so much that there is still that sway on very many members who are going to go into this election thinking that anybody deviating from St. Jeremy is a blasphemer and needs to be banished forthwith. It's a massive piece of work that Keir and Jess and Lisa have to do to overcome some of that thinking.
I think we talked about this last time, but very briefly, about how the hustings were a turning point in 2015 for Jeremy Corbyn. Now, I'll be honest, I can't remember this clearly enough, but it's certainly been suggested to me that Corbyn suddenly shot ahead of the other contenders when he started meeting grassroots members and ordinary members of the public as well.
Yeah.
Would you... there's two parts to this, really. One, I want to know whether you think things could change at the hustings. And then the second one, we'll get onto it in a little bit, is the geography of the hustings, which I think you'll be painfully aware of already. So do you think things could change substantially when we actually see the candidates talking to people?
In 2015, I think the hustings were played and were organised with a straight bat. Yeah, so they turned up, and definitely when Jeremy Corbyn was talking about his stance on not wanting any cuts to welfare, there was a ready-made audience wanting to listen to that, and something happened, something magical happened. I was immune to it, but something magical happened for Jeremy to sort of commune with the people in the audience. I'm worried about this set of hustings, though, because the party, and there are elements in the party members of staff who are very, very close to Corbyn, and essentially whose livelihoods are going to be at risk if Rebecca Long-Bailey does not win this. The hustings are being organised in the utmost secrecy. My understanding is that the leadership campaigns have been given no idea how audience members are being chosen for this. And the fact that actually the first one is being held in Liverpool, which has the biggest problem with some ex-militant people coming back into the party, I wouldn't be surprised if actually Saturday turns into a bit of a car crash for anybody who's not Rebecca Long-Bailey. I don't have sufficient faith left, quite frankly, in some of the people organising this, that they won't try and absolutely pack the room with people who they know are hardcore left-wingers who will barrack and shout at anybody who's not Rebecca Long-Bailey.
Gosh. OK. What about...
Party democracy 2020, eh?
Well... Listen, to try and make my patch clear, I believe in it. I love democracy, but democracy works best when you have a strong opposition. So at the moment, Labour is in opposition, and I suppose there's a part of me which would like to see Labour get its sort of oppositional act together. And I'm not sure that's going to happen if what you outline comes to pass. Could I just, it seems a little flippant after what you've just said about how you perceive that the hustings could be sort of railroaded by the left, but what about the actual geography? I've seen people, I think one of them's in Leeds, and you've got this sort of, it's not far enough north, it's not far enough northeast, it's not far enough northwest. Then people saying, well, Labour lost votes in the north, and you think, I have to remind them, Labour lost votes all over the country. I mean, you can't have a hustings everywhere. Liverpool is an interesting choice. Do you think there's anything in that already being set up for a fall?
I think there is an issue looking at that. I haven't got the list in front of me, but there weren't as many official Labour Party hustings as I thought there could be. And they did all seem to be in relative sort of citadels that Labour already hold. I really do believe that actually we should be in North Wales, we should be in the old coalfield belt in South Yorkshire and North Nottinghamshire. We need actually to have hustings in those places that have recently rejected us, so we can come face to face with those voters who basically said, no, can't do it, instead of falling back to potentially some inner city, big provincial areas where the membership has shot up and where our majority stayed relatively solid in December.
Who are you backing, Nathan?
Well, Progress, we're probably not endorsing anybody. We're here just to encourage that members use their votes wisely and make sure they vote for Lisa or for Jess or for Keir, and make sure that they transfer their vote. So at the moment, we're just all about maximising engagement.
Because you perceive those people, any of those three, as being potential candidates that could win an election, as opposed to Rebecca Long-Bailey you perceive as a candidate who won't win an election, just so I'm clear?
I don't think that Labour will win an election under Rebecca Long-Bailey, no.
Nathan Yeowell, pleasure talking to you once again. I appreciate it's not the easiest time for you, I would imagine, professionally, but I do appreciate you giving up time from Progress Online. It is worth reiterating, of course, that what you've just heard is just Nathan's position.